Good morning. Welcome to the family meeting.
What up?
We are glad that you're with us today.
So glad.
We are wearing our fall colors today because it is as fall as it's ever going to get.
Here in Florida.
Yeah, Thanksgiving is tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Thanksgiving is tomorrow. We can't wait. I know that you can't either. I love Thanksgiving. It's all about being thankful. It's all about the Lord and what he's done for us. So here's what I want to know about you. What family relationship are you most thankful for right now?
I would have to say probably my relationship with my son.
Your son, Coconut, the dog.
Yeah.
Cool.
Faithful friend. Good son.
You know, I don't even care anymore. Like, I've just given up on being more important than the dog.
Well, see, and that's the thing. Like, the dog doesn't give up ever.
That is true. He does not ever give up.
No. So.
I gave up a long time ago.
Yeah, you did. Speaking of fall.
Yeah.
I've got my Family First shirt on.
And might I say, it looks very good.
So we've got 4 fall colors to choose from. We've got Heather Tan, Heather Burgundy.
Which kind of looks like this. I'm not wearing it today.
Yep. Heather Military. And then Heather Pumpkin is this one. Heather Pumpkin. So.
You are the cutest pumpkin ever.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna give all the information on the podcast as kind of what we're plugging this week during the episode, but you can go right now. You don't even have to wait for all that. You can go to familymeeting.org/shop and you'll find the shirts there. There is a limited number for each size that's there.
Yeah.
So if you want to make sure you get the color you want, you're going to want to go on there literally right now.
Yeah.
Push pause. Go on there right now and get your shirt. Those will be sent out soon.
Also, let me mention, tomorrow is Thanksgiving, so if you don't have your turkey out, you're going to want to
microwave that bad boy for 4 hours.
Get it out right now. Don't microwave it, but you can use like cold running water over it and stuff like that.
Yeah, all night.
Yeah, seriously. So you're in trouble if you don't have your turkey out yet. But we need to get to recording this because we've got a lot going on this week.
Because baked beans.
Yeah, baked beans. Nobody has baked beans with Thanksgiving dinner. Do you guys? No, they don't. Neither do you. We have like Thanksgiving turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, stuffing, green bean casserole, and pie. Usually that's pretty much it. We don't do like a million sides.
We don't do that weird sweet potato garbage with marshmallow on it.
I just had it for the first time at our Friendsgiving 2 weeks ago, and it was amazing.
Really?
It was so good. Yes, you wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
I just know you well enough to know you wouldn't like it.
It sounds hideous.
But it was delicious.
Yeah.
Laura Coppin made it, and she knocked it out of the park.
I'm sure her version is delicious. Laura, if you're watching, I believe it is the best that dish can possibly be.
It was amazing.
Just not my thing.
She made 2 sweet potato casseroles, pies. I don't know what they're called. It was in a 9x13 pan, both of them.
It's sweet potato casserole.
Okay, casserole. One of them was covered and had the like marshmallows, and one of them she did with the pecan topping. So she made 2. Like she went all out.
Oh, the variety.
And she grew them in her own garden.
Yeah.
Somebody is trying to make us look bad.
That's next level dedication to Friendsgiving. When you're like, hey, I'll literally grow this months ahead of time just so I can have them for this dish for Friendsgiving.
She's a super friend.
True friend. So.
Yeah. Okay, let's get this recorded, babe.
All right, here we go. Gather round, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas, and this is my wife, my marriage casserole. We don't like that? I was trying to tie the sweet potato casserole.
Am I supposed to say, like, I am?
Yes! I love it. Perfect. Lysandra!
Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 218 of the Family Meeting podcast. We're glad you're with us today. On today's episode, we're going to discuss solving problems as a team.
Is that possible?
It is possible.
Is it possible without getting a divorce?
It is possible without getting a divorce. And it makes your life better because you and your spouse will inevitably come across so many problems in your marriage. Not with your marriage necessarily, although you will, but problems in life, like issues with parenting or with work or with life and whatever else. So do you focus on the problems or figure out how to find a solution as a team?
Yeah, and so we literally, so just to give you an example, I want to kind of elaborate just a second on this point.
Excellent.
when she talks about problems just coming up, we literally had a problem just come up yesterday out of the blue. So it's Catherine's birthday. I'm out on a birthday date with her. Lysandra goes to a job. They don't have the paint. And then they added on a room. Yes. And so the time that she had like set aside and scheduled for this particular job, now it's going 3 hours longer than what, an hour to get paint, a couple hours to do the bathroom. So she messages me while I'm out with Catherine and is like, hey, can you come help me before your men's night tonight?
Yeah, I'm like, I need you for just like a couple of hours in between your birthday date with Catherine and men's group. Can you please? And I knew it was asking a lot because you would have to go basically from the paint job to your men's night out.
Well, and I hadn't planned, like it wasn't in my schedule.
I knew that
paint
you had work
at all. So
yeah.
But that's the thing.
But what did you do?
Problems happen in life, and okay, how are we going to come to a solution? Because we're leaving town. We can't push this off anymore. It's got to be done, right? So what are we going to do? So we problem solved. You took Abigail with you to start the job. Yep. Then I came over and relieved her, and I painted for 3 or 4 hours. And then when I had to leave and you weren't done, I texted Isabella, our second oldest daughter, and said, hey, I need you to come help mom finish up.
Yeah.
So
and she did.
We made it work.
Yeah. So we were problem solving as a family, not just a couple. But one thing about this job though that was kind of interesting for those of you who care, I don't know, maybe nobody cares, but the homeowners are home, right? So it's an
elderly couple.
Yeah, and it's not like you can just be like, oh, it's not a big deal, I'll just paint till midnight, which is sometimes what I do. But because they're home, I had to get out of this house so that these people can go to bed, and I'm painting their bedrooms and their master bathroom, and I'm like, they can't even get in their bed. Well, they're in their bed, but
the guy so Lysandra tells me, you tell it because I was not there, but just tell me like what happened, because you got to move the furniture away from the wall. This
is just a fun little tidbit about what our lives are like. So I go in and she's like, this is the room, that I want you to paint. And I knew what room it was going to be. And her elderly husband is in the bed. And I'm like, oh, hello, sir, and he only speaks Spanish. So we kind of exchanged pleasantries in different languages with smiles. And she said, the bed is too heavy, I can't move it. And I said, no problem, my daughter and I will move it. And she said, can my husband stay in the bed while you move the bed? And I was like, sure, no problem. So Abigail and I are on either side of this gentleman's bed, and we moved the bed with him in it to the middle of the room.
Yeah, which is
it's the first time I've ever done that before. So I looked at him and I said, okay, you're going to go for a ride. Are you ready? And he just looked at me and smiled because he doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
So, and then we picked him up and we moved him, and he stayed in the room while we painted. So it was a first experience for us.
I didn't get that excitement though, because when we went to move the bed back, he had gotten up and was eating supper. I think he's eating supper. He was eating, that's right. Mm-hmm. So I missed out on that, but you never know when you're going to go to a client's house.
It's always
you got to problem solve. So before we jump into today's episode though, I want to talk about family first, right? Thanksgiving's coming up and you're going to have a lot of family time. And so our brand new Family First t-shirts are out. We've got 4 fall colors available. So we've got Heather Tan, Heather Burgundy, Heather Military, which is like an olive green, and then Heather Pumpkin. And I'm actually wearing the Heather Pumpkin right now. They are on the softest t-shirt you've ever felt in your entire life.
They feel like wearing jammies.
So I wear them constantly. Mm-hmm. And we only have a limited number of each size in each color. So if you want to make sure you get the color that you want, you're going to want to go right now and go to familymeeting.org/shop, and you'll see the t-shirts there. You can select your size. And once you check out, pay for it, then we'll ship that out right away.
Yeah, they are so comfortable and they look great. So we love them. Anyway, let's get into our discussion. We want to talk about problem solving, but not just problem solving on your own. And I think it's really easy because you grow up your whole life and yeah, you've got your family, you've got your parents, brothers and sisters and friends and whatnot. But ultimately, through most of your life, you're like, okay, how can I handle my situations, my problems on my own?
Yeah.
How can I make this work? How can I get ahead? How can I find a solution? Blah, blah, blah. And then you get married. And there's a part of us that either by habit or just because we think it's better, we will end up trying to solve problems without our spouse and kind of leaving them behind or on the sideline, which when you do that, you are not operating at your full capacity.
Yeah.
Because you and your spouse became a team the day you walked the aisle and said, I do. Yeah, you're both still individuals, and I understand that, but you are two individuals who are joined together to create a much stronger team. And this was God's design for marriage, yet we often live counter to that design. We live like two separate people, and marriage isn't an individual sport. Marriage is a team sport. And I love what Genesis 2:24 says. Therefore shall a man leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife. They two shall become one flesh. And that's what marriage is.
And I think about going back to the beginning, you mentioned these verses in Genesis. God did create the woman to be a helper for the man, showing us that marriage is a partnership where both individuals complement each other and work together as a team. And I think that if God had created Eve first, he would have used similar terminology when he talks about creating man. Hey, I'm going to create a man that's going to be a help to her. And it's beautiful the way that the husband and the wife can complement each other in life. But I think of Genesis 2:18 says, then the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him. And that phrase is kind of like, I'm going to give him exactly what he needs.
Yeah.
And for each of us, our spouse helps us in different ways. So what I need is not going to be the same as what other husbands need. And what Lysandra needs is not necessarily going to be what other wives need. Because for a lot of things, my wife does not need me. Right? You don't need me for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You know how to do a lot of stuff. You're very self-sufficient. But there are things that you definitely need from me in ways that I help you.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't go at life alone if you're married. You shouldn't try to solve all problems by yourself alone. It's just not the way it's supposed to be.
That's right. And you're better together. Sometimes we get this idea that we can just handle this or that on our own and we can figure things out without having to bother our spouse. But you need your spouse, and I need Thomas. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want you to look at it later, okay? Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. But it does start this way. It says, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. And it talks about if one falls, another will pick him up.
Yeah.
If you are sleeping, you can keep each other warm, and so on and so forth. And while this passage is not directly about marriage, it illustrates the benefit of two people working together and being a team, lifting each other up, being stronger together. And that's what you are with your spouse.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. If we're better as a team, why do we sometimes try to solve problems separately? And there's a lot of different reasons for that. I think about people who have been single for a long time and then they get married. You're kind of established that, hey, I'm used to doing everything by myself. I'm used to running my own schedule and having to work it out or whatever else. Here's something that I think about. I think about these couples that have been married for a long time, and either they've gotten a divorce or maybe a spouse has passed away or whatever, and they're into their second marriage. That can be difficult because you've established, even if you're used to working together, like working through problems or whatever, you've kind of established how you go about that, and that may not necessarily be the way that in this marriage you go about it. So there's a lot of different reasons for that. Maybe you have a desire for independence. You may fear being seen as dependent or incapable if they rely on their partner for help. So that could be one of the reasons.
Yeah. Another reason that some people, I think, don't want to go to their spouse for help is they have this fear of like burdening their partner. I know that I have talked to people who have this idea in their mind. Like one spouse might not want to add stress to the relationship by involving the other in a problem. Like, oh, I've got this problem at work, but I don't want to bother you, so I'm just going to handle it.
Have you felt that before? Have you felt like this is a reason you couldn't come to me?
Absolutely. And it's usually on Sundays.
Okay, yeah.
So on Sundays, Thomas is very
locked in.
You are locked in. You are kind of burdened with the weight of preaching and the spiritual emphasis of our church. And Thomas is not the kind of guy who wants to talk about a bunch of other things or anything. Like he needs a really narrow focus on Sunday mornings.
And once I'm focused, I don't.
You're no good to me.
I don't see or anything else. Like the blinders are on. It's go time, basically.
Yeah, it is. Which I'm not that way. Which I'm not leading a church, and I'm not preaching on a regular basis or anything. But I do have times where I speak to women and prepare speeches and presentations and lead events and stuff. But for me, I'm not like that. Like you can come to me with an issue before an event, like my daughters do all the time.
Yeah.
And like I don't mind talking to other people and whatever. But Thomas is not that way. Like he's just got to focus, right? So on Sunday mornings, I try to never talk to you about any other problems. And there have been multiple times that problems happen on a Sunday. I mean, it just does. With the kids, especially when they were little. Oh my goodness, when they were little, it would be so naughty on a Sunday morning. It was like they knew you weren't going to do anything about it. I wasn't going to tell you or go to you for help.
Kids know, man.
Man, they know.
They know.
They're so smart when they're so little even. And so problems with the kids, relationship issues, someone at church is upset or whatever. Or for instance, like I walk into church and there's supposed to be somebody in nursery. There's supposed to be somebody in Kids Cove. There's supposed to be, and nobody's anywhere. And like, I know that I have to solve these problems without talking to you because I don't know if the word is you can't handle it, but you don't want to handle it. Maybe. I don't know. It's just not the right time to bother you.
Yeah.
So yes, I have had that, but pretty much only on Sundays.
Okay.
How about you? Do you ever feel that way with me that you don't want to burden me with your problems?
Absolutely not.
You purposefully want to burden me with your problems.
Yes. I want to invite you into my life and connect with you.
Like when you can't find something and it's sitting right next to you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you may be thousands of miles away and I will call or text you.
Yes.
Do you have an idea where this is?
Exactly.
So it could be fear of burdening your partner that you go at it alone or don't want to approach. Maybe it's this, though. Maybe it's just different approaches.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes individuals simply don't want to deal with the back and forth of finding common ground and prefer to tackle it alone. Like they just have this mentality that my way is the right way. This is the best way. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to spend time or energy in going back and forth. Mm-hmm. So I'll just go up by myself.
Yeah. And in a minute here, we're going to talk about how that makes your spouse feel. But we're not going to jump ahead yet. Okay. Why else do we sometimes try to tackle these things alone? Because we don't want conflict. We just want to avoid conflict. And sometimes one spouse might be avoiding involving their partner because they anticipate a disagreement or a conflict about how to approach the problem. Like Thomas said, not everybody deals with problems the same way. And, then you have to go in a back and forth and it can create conflict.
Yeah.
For instance, if the other day, yesterday, when I texted Thomas and said, hey, I really need some help. Are you able to come help me? If he had said, I can't help you. Can you try to get so-and-so to help you or whatever? We would have to go back and forth. And as I'm in the middle of painting, I really don't want to back and forth. I just need help. And so I understand this one. I do get it.
Well, and you're not naturally a person who, I don't want to say enjoys conflict because I think if you actually enjoy conflict, there's probably a problem there. But you're kind of conflict averse. Like if you can avoid conflict, you will.
Yeah.
I
want zero attention.
You've gotten a lot better at it. Like you don't.
Thank you.
You don't allow your conflict avoidance to control whether or not you deal with the situation.
Thanks.
Whereas in the past, you would you would maybe be guilty of not saying anything.
Yeah, all the time.
To kind of keep the peace.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then also, like, one of the reasons, though, I think that people can be so afraid of this conflict and stuff when solving problems is because of past experiences that they've already had. Like, I involved you in problem solving the last time, and it went really poorly, and all this conflict happened. So now I've learned I'm not going to go to you with my problems. It's not worth it. So sometimes, like, previous attempts to involve your spouse have just come out with unhelpful outcomes or frustration. And one spouse just chooses, it's not even worth it. I'm just going to handle it alone. I don't want to repeat the past.
Yeah. It could be also perceived lack of support. Mm-hmm. Now, it could be also like literal lack of support. Like I've gone and there's just no desire for them to be involved in this situation or help at all.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the perceived in just a second. For those who maybe literally their spouse isn't interested in helping the kids, isn't interested in working through situations, what's kind of the just little bit of advice you would give to them to try to, keep encouraging their spouse to be involved without negging or whatever?
I think the best thing that you can do is, during a time that you're not stressed, they're not stressed, and you have plenty of time, go to them and just tell them, like, I want to have a conversation with you about something real. Do not to say serious, but real. Like, we're not just going to discuss what we're going to eat for supper. I want to talk to you about something real. So they know that it's coming. Sit down, tell them, I love you. I really appreciate everything you do. I do feel like there is a lack of support from you when I need you, when I'm trying to solve problems, when situations arrive. I feel like I can't call on you. Am I right in that? So ask, like, is that what's happening in your mind, or are you totally unaware of this? Depending on what the answer is, you can then say, listen, I love you. I need you. I need your help. And you can even talk to them about the strengths that they have. So you are excellent at dealing with our children. I just need you to help me when I need help. You are so good at helping me with tech. You understand tech. So when I have a problem with tech, I need you to jump in and help me. Okay. I've now turned to Thomas and I'm making extreme eye contact.
Got you.
But yeah, because that also appeals to their sense of worth, saying, you are great at this thing. I need you to help me solve these problems when I come up against them. Yeah.
So it may be a literal lack of support, but often I think it's more of just a perceived lack of support. It's not that they don't want to help. Mm-hmm. They're not interested in help. There could be a lot of different factors for that moment. Mm-hmm. But if a person feels their spouse does not understand or provide the type of help they need, all right, maybe the help they're providing isn't actually helpful in the situation.
Yeah, okay, now instead of actually disciplining the kids, you're just screaming at them.
Yeah.
This doesn't help.
So they may choose to handle things themselves instead of seeking support that feels insufficient.
Yeah, that's true. All right, here I think is a huge one why people do not seek help for solving problems and don't do it as a team, and that's pride and their ego.
Sure.
Yeah. Some people just enjoy that sense of accomplishment that comes from solving problems on their own. They believe that like you said earlier, they believe their way is best. They believe their way is the only way. Why would I ask you for help when I already got this? I know everything. I am the best parent. I am the best at doing this, that, or the other. And that pride.
Well, and we've seen this kind of to the extreme where a spouse will go out and buy a brand new car.
Oh, yeah.
Without talking to their spouse. And it's like, well, we needed a vehicle. I just handled it. I took care of it. Or even this, going out and buying a house.
Oh, my.
Without consulting their spouse at all. That is obviously way to the extreme. But we've seen it happen.
It does happen.
And it's like, well, we're moving. And so I just took care of it. Yeah. Handle all the stress and everything else yourself. I handled it. And it's like, man, we're going to get there, but if you just understood what that kind of thing does to your spouse.
That is not operating as a team.
Now, most people, it's not to that extreme, but it has happened. We've seen it. It can go that route.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think that those giant decisions happen, bam, right off the bat. My guess is It's problem solving by themselves, finding their own solution, teeny tiny little solutions all along the way. And as they get into those habits and those patterns of just solving problems alone, all of a sudden they are buying a house out of state without even talking about solutions that maybe are in state in the same house.
Yeah. So lots of negativity can come into the marriage when both spouses aren't working together to solve problems. And remember, we're supposed to be a team now. Mm-hmm. That's God's design. The two become one flesh. So everything that I do affects Lysandra. Everything she does affects me. And if you don't trust your spouse to be involved in problem solving, you can create feelings of exclusion in them. Mm-hmm. So if one spouse consistently handles problems on their own, the other might feel excluded or unimportant. Like, I'm not important to you to include me in this decision. And that could happen with small things and with large things.
Yeah.
They may perceive it as a sign that their partner doesn't trust them, doesn't value their support, their insight, whatever else, which can lead to feelings of isolation or distance in the relationship.
Yeah. It's
like
going to hurt your marriage.
You're literally pushing them away because you won't involve them in the problem solving.
And you're making them feel small and unimportant. Do you want your spouse to feel that way? Of course not, right? We want our spouse to feel loved and important and valued.
Well, and I was doing this to you without really realizing it, because we had kind of set up a pattern that certain things you would, when I would ask questions or whatever, you just say, I don't care, you decide. Mm-hmm. And so, because you said that so many times, I stopped even just asking you. Mm-hmm. And I would just make certain decisions about, hey, we're doing this weekend. This is what we're doing on family day. We're going to this restaurant tonight, without considering you or talking to you about it. And until finally we were able to have a conversation about it. So now I try to like get your thoughts, your input. Hey, what do you think about doing this for family day or Christmas or restaurant? And just trying to include you, because that's exactly what I was doing, is I was kind of isolating you and pushing you, out without kind of realizing it.
How hard was it for you to make the change? Like, you had been in this pattern of, I just do what I think is best all the time. How hard was it for you to bring me back into that?
It's very hard, because once the pattern is set, and that's the thing, if somebody's used to and they've set a pattern of solving these problems themselves, it is difficult to break that. It's like any pattern in your life, whether you're talking about the way that you eat or how you discipline your kids or whatever it is. Anytime you're going to disrupt a pattern, it's difficult. It takes intentionality. And so you kind of have to you're going to make some mistakes along the way.
Right. You're going to forget and go back
and be confronted and have these conversations. And so there's still times even now where I'll jump back into old patterns without, trying to hurt you or push you away. It is very difficult to break those patterns. You just have to have intentionality about it.
Yeah. You exhibited it this just on Friday. We were having our family day and we were walking all around Tampa at the River Walk and stuff. And we ended up at the University of Tampa, I think. And so we're walking all around and we're coming back off campus, back toward the River Walk. And we get to basically a crossroads. And the question is, all right, are we going to keep walking further down the river or walk back the river toward the car? And I was so happy because you turned to me and you said, do you think we should keep walking away from the car or should we head back toward the car? And I was really happy because I had a problem he didn't even know about. And that was, I was wearing flip-flops and we had walked a long ways.
She made a poor footwear choice.
I did. And so my feet were starting to get like blisters. And I told him I would really like to head back to the car. And so he said, okay, let's go back to the car. And the kids were all like, yes, I'm ready to go back.
Yeah.
They were done walking. But it was just really nice to be involved in the decision making. And, for me, it was solving a problem.
Yes.
Maybe not for you. But another way that your spouse might feel if you repeatedly leave them out of problem solving and you act as an individual rather than as a team is they are going to start to feel frustration and helplessness. They are going to be so frustrated. If a spouse wants to be involved, they want to help, they want to give their opinion, they want to make the plan to find the solution, and they're repeatedly shut out, they're going to feel frustrated. And they may want to contribute to that solution. and they're left in the dark. And guess what that feels like? Rejection. You don't even know maybe that you're doing this to your spouse, but you may be making them feel completely rejected because you're not bringing them into the problem solving process. So when someone offers help and it's declined and you're like, no, I got this. It's a form of rejection. And that spouse may wonder, okay, well, why? Why am I being viewed as incapable? Why am I being viewed that like my contributions are not valued? My opinions, my ideas, my solutions, they're not valued. And then that is going to affect their self-esteem. That's going to cause emotional hurt. That's going to affect their perceived value and how they think you value them.
Well, and that damage, it kind of compounds. Like, it's one thing if it happens once or a couple times, but when it's the repeated pattern, that can do a lot of emotional damage to your spouse, which is not your intended. I mean, not your intended.
Hopefully, it's not anybody's intended thing. And I think that is what happened to me. I'm not saying I'm emotionally damaged necessarily, but it definitely, I started to have very little confidence in myself. Like, I really didn't think that my opinions were good or that my ideas mattered. Like, not necessarily that they didn't matter to you, but that they weren't good or they don't matter at all. Like, that is where I got to. I felt like, well, why say anything? What you have to say is stupid anyway. And you didn't mean to do that. You weren't trying to do that. And I didn't even know. It was all subconscious. I didn't know that was happening. And then now when Thomas will bring me into like, okay, we've got this situation at church, what can we do? And he started to do that with everything, whether it's his graphic designs or his work, his relationships, whatever it is. And he brings me into that. I start feeling like, oh, I actually have some good ideas. I do kind of know what I'm talking about, and we go back and forth and we work together. But it really can affect your spouse emotionally and how they value themselves.
Well, and even if it's the simplest little problem, a spouse can feel undervalued. In a relationship, most typical spouses get satisfaction from working together as a team.
Yeah.
And if the spouse who wants to help is rejected, they may start to feel guilty or doubt their own abilities to contribute meaningfully, like Lysandra talked about just a second ago. They might feel that their partner is pulling away emotionally or that there's a lack of closeness and teamwork, which can and does affect the overall bond between them.
That's right. And you want to have a close bond with your spouse. You want to be close to each other, but yet this is going to prevent that. This is going to ruin that. So that's why working together as a team and problem solving as a team is such an important thing. Okay, so I think that we've proven to you it's good to work as a team. I think we've proven to you that if you don't work as a team, it's going to negatively affect your relationships. So we know now we got to work as a team to solve problems. And now as you and your spouse learn to attack problems together as a team, you're going to grow in your relationship and in your effectiveness of life. So how? I like to leave you guys with things that you can do, a next step for you. So practically speaking, how can you start a new pattern of solving problems together?
Now, if you're not used to doing this, when you first start, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be weird. There may be a little bit of conflict.
Yeah.
All right. So just go and kind of expecting that.
Yeah.
It's like doing anything for the first time. Whether you think about your kids learning to walk, those of you are parents, like none of our kids just got up and walked. Mm-hmm. Like they tried to get up, you could see their legs kind of wobbling. They stumbled, they fell, they bumped their head. And that's what it's going to be like if you're not used to working together to solve problems.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the first thing you're going to do when you come up against a problem, this could be the teeny tiniest little problem. Like, I'm supposed to pick up this kid from soccer practice and this kid from school at the same time. Okay, that's a problem, right? It's a small problem, but it's a problem. Maybe it's at work and your boss has said, I want you to come in for a meeting tomorrow. I want you to explain why this work that you gave me yesterday was subpar. Okay, you've got a problem at work. It doesn't really involve your spouse, although it's going to affect them how the meeting goes.
Yeah.
So this is a problem. Bring your spouse in. What are your ideas or whatever? Okay, so first you're going to define the problem together. Okay. This may be through a quick text. This may be, if it's a big situation, you may have to sit down and like have a family meeting about this issue. Other times it's as simple as like what I did yesterday when I texted Thomas and said, I'm not going to finish in time and these poor people need to go to bed. I need help. But ensure
yeah, so not we didn't need a lot of discussion. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty apparent that what the definition of the problem was, like what the actual problem was. It's not always going to be that simple, but sometimes it literally is just a quick text, like this is the issue.
Well, and you've got to ensure that both partners understand the problem in the same way, because if I had just texted Thomas and been like,
I need you to paint.
Yeah, that's not enough, because he had to understand I have a timeline that was messed up through, I want to say, no fault of my own. I probably could have maybe tried to communicate a little bit better. There is a language barrier, so I'm going to use that as a defense. But,
okay.
But anyway, I all these unexpected things happened that threw off my timeline, and I had people who needed to go to bed. So I had to make sure he understood the problem the same way that I see the problem. It's not just I'm tired, or it's not just I don't want to work that long. That isn't it at all. But there was a more of an issue, more parameters that he needed to understand. So sometimes what one person sees as the issue is only a symptom of something deeper too. So maybe talking about symptoms versus actual problem. So agree on the scope of the problem. Like, this is not a huge problem, or this is an emergency, or anywhere in between. And if one person is more concerned about the aspect of the problem than they need to be, they might need to negotiate and address it as a team.
Yeah.
And how many times has that happened in our lives?
A lot.
Usually I'm like, oh, this is a really big problem. We've got to take care of this right now. Everything is DEFCON 5 for me.
It is. And I'm like, that's not really a big deal. Like, obviously we have to deal with it, but it's like, this does not need to be focused all of our energy right now.
I am a fixer, and I am the opposite of a procrastinator. What's the opposite of a procrastinator that like does things immediately if they can?
Weirdo.
Nuts? I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm literally the type of person who's like, okay, until it actually needs to be dealt with, I don't see a reason to deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm a deadline type person. So most things it's like, okay, this is the deadline of when it needs to be done. So that's when I'll have it done by then. Like, that's the way I operate. And
it's been so hard in our marriage to work together.
So
because of those different perspectives.
Yes, it can be difficult because we are extreme opposites in almost every single way, including the way that we attack and look at problems.
Yeah, and probably you and your spouse are too. So it's good to articulate those things too. And it's good for Thomas to explain to me, this problem doesn't really need to be solved until this day, so I want to wait until this day. And then I have to articulate, yeah, I get that, but it hangs over me like a cloud until we deal with it. So you want me to have a cloud over me until that day?
And I'm like, yes.
And I'm like, jerk. And that's how our discussions go.
Yeah. And then we do whatever it is she wanted to do.
And that is a good marriage.
But here's, and this is something I struggle with, right? I like to say I'm a realist. You would say I'm
a pessimist.
Yeah. But however you are, try to stay calm and and positive as you tackle problems with your spouse. We can say we can handle anything together, right? That's what we say. And you can say that. And but you have to approach the problem with a positive attitude.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on what went wrong, frame the discussion in terms of what can be done to improve the current situation. All right. So whatever happened, like, you can talk about that later, like how we can do better. That can be discussed later on after you figure everything out. Like, okay, to help not get in the same situation, let's talk through how we can do that later.
You did that yesterday. Do you remember?
I do. I'll get to that.
Okay. I'm just like laughing. Go ahead. Sorry.
But here's the thing. Like, that's not going to help you with the current situation. So, okay, we're in the weeds of it, however thick of it, however it happened. What is the solution to get us from here to out of it or solve the problem? So keep a solution-oriented mindset. So here's what I did yesterday. I'm just thinking.
You didn't do anything wrong, really.
No, and I even framed it in such a way like, okay,
you tried.
I'm not trying to put you down, or I'm not trying to like throw anything in your face. I'm just like thinking out loud about next time, because there was a little bit of a language barrier. Mm-hmm. And so Lysandra got there, and there was like not even a full gallon of paint for 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. So it's like, obviously this is not enough paint. So now she has to run to the store.
And it's traffic, like it's primetime traffic in our area. And so it was going to take at least 40 minutes to get there and back, probably more than an hour.
Yeah. So I was just talking through like, how can we do this? It was not the right time, but it was on my mind. And so I just kind of like was thinking through it out loud. And I even told her that, like, I'm just thinking through this out loud. I'm not trying to put you down. And in the past, I wouldn't even have prefaced it with that. Like,
no,
I would just say, like, you need to do this.
Yeah, like, you shouldn't have done this. This would, yeah.
And so
this would never have happened if you had.
Which feels like a personal attack if you're on the opposite end of that. So I was trying to say, listen, I'm not trying to attack you. I just want to think through this. I want to try to problem solve together for next time. But it wasn't the right time to problem solve.
Because I was frustrated with myself already and just working really hard trying to get out of there.
So that's why I'm saying, like, don't do what I did yesterday, okay? Learning through the process.
Right, and you
just focus in on the solution, right?
That's right.
But I was just like, okay, next time let's maybe check ahead of time yourself how much paint they have.
Yeah.
In those sorts of things. And so I was just kind of talking through some things like that.
Which is not, it's not wrong. Like it was good, and I should have just scheduled a whole different day to go and check the paint supply and look at it for myself, not guaranteeing on a language barrier and what they were saying to me over text. But I do want to mention on this point a movie that we recently watched. That, by the way, is a fabulous movie, but you may not be okay with it because it's a thriller action adventure. I wouldn't say it's a horror movie. I don't like horror at all, but it is like such a good story. It's called Speak No Evil.
Okay, yeah.
What would you categorize that as?
Thriller.
Thriller. Okay, it's a thriller. It's such a good story. And there's a part in the movie where the husband and wife, who all throughout the movie you see, like they are having marital issues. And they get into a bad situation, real bad. And the husband just freaks. He just panics. He's like, we never should have done this. If we hadn't have done this, then this wouldn't have happened. It's my fault, da, 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 da. And she like grabs him. She might even slap him. I don't know. And she's like, listen to me. She's like, we're here now. It doesn't matter how we got here. We have to find a solution.
Yeah.
And she like takes charge and is like, you're going to do this. I'm going to do this. We're going to do this. And they solve the problem. But it does not help when you are in the weeds, as Thomas put it, to just go over and over and over of how we got here. That is not helping you. That does not help your spouse. You're just either throwing a pity party. I did this. I got us here. This is my fault. I spent too much on the credit cards. I got us into this debt or whatever. So either you're throwing a pity party or you're like, you did this. You got us here. You spent all this money. So then you're blaming. You're not helping. You're not solving the problem. So stop going over and over how you got there and go to the solution.
Yeah, it's a waste of a lot of energy on something that's not going to help the situation. So let's spend our energy, our focus on solving the problem instead of adding more weight to it.
Exactly.
Like I mentioned, there's a time later on after you're out of it. Okay, paint job's over. Hey, can we just sit down and chat about this last paint job? That's what I should have done. I should have done that. And that's exactly what we should have done. Okay, the problem's over. Let's schedule a time where we can sit down and just talk about it, how we can learn from this so we don't get in the same situation.
Right. And then meanwhile, I have to talk about this too. I'm totally taking rabbit trails, you guys, but
okay.
This happened yesterday as well. So it was Catherine's birthday, and Isabella came to pick up Abigail, who doesn't have her license yet. from the job, and Thomas came and he stayed. So Isabella is going to take Abigail home, stopping at Walmart and getting snacks because they're going to watch a movie with their sister because Catherine had all this fabulous day out and everything, and she needed some like rest downtime. So their way to spend time together on their birthday was going to be like eating popcorn and watching a movie. So Isabella calls me later and she's like, Mom, and I'm still painting. She's like, I just want you to know I drove on the interstate on Highway 95, which for those of you who don't know, Highway 95 is a 3-lane highway that people drive insanely on.
It's like Mad Max. For those of you that see Mad Max, that's exactly what 95 is.
It's so crazy out there. Like, people drive so nuts. I personally love it because I like to drive a little bit aggressively.
Yeah. And so it's okay if you're an experienced driver, but we kind of tell our kids, hey, if you don't have to go on 95, don't go on 95.
And we want them to have some practice with one of us to just give a little bit of guidance. And we just haven't gotten there yet. We just haven't taken the time to do that. So she calls and she's basically confessing to me. I got on 95. She's like,
I know you don't want me to drive on 95. I did. I'm sorry.
Yeah. She's like, I thought I was in the turning lane to Walmart. I was on the turning lane to the highway. And once I was on the on-ramp, I knew I had no choice. I just had to go. So I did what you said. I didn't panic. And I just merged and I got on and I stayed in the right lane. And then I just got off at the next exit. And I was like, I'm so proud of you. And she was like, oh, because she thought she was going to be in trouble. But that is what I tell my girls all the time. No matter what happens in life, the first rule is don't panic. Never panic. Because Catherine, when she was learning to drive and she got into a little situation, she closed her eyes, took her hands off the wheel and screamed.
Yeah.
That's called panicking.
Thankfully, she was with your dad, not with us.
Yes, who grabbed the wheel and handled it. But that's the first rule in life is don't panic. And I want to tell you that with your problem solving, this is the first rule of life, guys. Don't panic. Whatever the problem is, don't panic. You and your spouse are going to be a team and solve it together. Right?
Well, and it's even like we had another problem yesterday that became because of the paint problem. So it's Catherine's birthday. Lysandra had plans to make Catherine the meal she wanted for supper for her birthday.
Yes.
Stuffed lamb burgers with goat cheese.
Yeah.
And
they're amazing, you guys. Let me know if you want the recipe.
So because of the issues at the paint job, the added room and whatever, the job's not going to be done in time. Like, and for us, like those of you that listen to the podcast, you know, birthdays are a big deal around our house.
Oh yeah.
And so now we're like, oh great. Like,
how am I going to,
she's going to be disappointed.
Do for her birthday meal?
Yeah. All this
my
stuff.
Baby who's turned 19.
Yeah, exactly. But, so, okay, how are we going to solve this problem? Because we're not going to get done in time to actually make the dinner that we had planned on. And so working through that solution.
Problem solved. I'll get you any takeout you want and I'll make you lamb burgers another night.
Yeah.
That was the solution there. But
well, and my part of the solution without telling Lysandra was I texted Catherine after they had the conversation about dinner. And I was like, listen, ask your mom for ice cream, soft drinks, whatever. Get whatever you can out of her for this.
Because you knew I would say yes.
I knew it.
But this is actually leading into our next suggestion, and that is brainstorm solutions together.
Yep.
Brainstorm solutions together. What can we do? I definitely can't cook the special birthday dinner tonight. It's going to be way too late. What can we do instead? So brainstorm. You're going to generate options. You're going to work together. Both partners, not one, should contribute ideas for how to solve this problem.
And so just think about the little problem with Catherine's birthday dinner. You know, Lysandra had come up with a solution of, okay, whatever takeout. Like, she's going to enjoy it. It's something special.
Yeah, we don't do that hardly ever.
So, you know, she's thinking of that solution. And I kind of came back with, well, you need to call her as soon as you can to give her time to kind of process through this and think through. So it's not like all of a sudden she's expecting this to happen in a phone call and she's been waiting all this time and you're not coming home and dinner's not going to be made. So we kind of work together what we should do, how to handle the problem, you know?
Yeah.
and we had a good conversation about it. And of course, everything came out fine.
Yeah, but as you brainstorm, this is really, really important. You have to be open to each other's suggestions. Try not to dismiss anything right away.
Yeah, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's a great way to ruin any future problem solving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll take you back to the first half of this podcast episode where it's like, I can't figure out why they don't want to solve problems with me.
Because you're a jerk. But brainstorming together, it helps to generate a range of possible solutions. Because I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to like to hear, you guys. Your way is not the only way. Your way is not the only way that's right. There are a lot of ways out there and a lot of good ideas.
Well, and I like this philosophy that this ministry leader group had that I was a part of, where we're coming to a round table, we're going to discuss a certain topic, and it was basically like, listen, throw whatever ideas out there. Throw all the ideas out there. There's going to be dumb ideas. There's going to be things that really don't apply to you or your situation. But it's in this process that you're going to find the best solution.
Yeah.
So your spouse may throw out some ideas that you're literally like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Don't say that.
No.
Like, if you think that, that's fine. You probably will think that about certain things. Don't say that. But just keep throwing those ideas out there. And if you feel like, oh, this is a stupid idea, I don't think I should say it. Say it.
Yeah.
Just say it, because it may end up helping to come and lead to what the actual solution is, even if that's not the specific solution.
Yeah, that's right. And don't be afraid to think creatively, we've had car problems, and you have too, where you're like, okay, all three of us need to be in 3 different directions, and now we have no cars because they're all broke down at the same time. Who can we ask for help? Who can we get on our team? Can we borrow a car? I mean, it's just think creatively. Sometimes the best solutions require thinking outside the box.
Well, and you think about every technological advancement we've had is because somebody thought creatively about a problem, and they found a creative solution. So,
yeah. And don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of challenging yourselves to find solutions that might not be immediately obvious, or maybe something that might require a little extra effort or an adjustment or whatever. It can be the best thing ever.
So you're going to brainstorm together, and then just consider the pros and cons. All right. So we look at the potential solutions from both sides and evaluate them. Be willing to compromise. Mm-hmm. A good team is one where both partners are willing to meet halfway. If there's a disagreement about the solution, try to find a middle ground where both partners feel satisfied with the outcome. So you agree on this plan of action. So let's go back to our paint problem yesterday, where I'm not planning to paint. I'm going to take Catherine out on her birthday date, which is going to go till about 2 p.m. And then in the evening, I had men's night out with our guys at our church. And in between, I had some things that I wanted to get done. So we're trying to figure out, okay, how can we still do this? I can still do the date. I can still do the men's night. How can we figure this out? Mm-hmm. And agree on it, where it's not like you got to cancel all your plans and get this done. Mm-hmm. No, what can we do?
Yeah, problem solving should be a lot of compromise. It shouldn't be one spouse is always the one making the sacrifice, or, adjusting their schedule, and you get everything you want every time.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that
way. A lot of back and forth, working together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And once you find that, plan of action, stick to it and follow the plan. And one of the things that you need to do as you're working to change into this team problem solving thing is you've got to develop a team mindset shift from the focus of me to we. Yeah. Okay. So it's not like I have this problem. We have this problem. We together have this problem. We are going to fix it together.
Well, and we are one flesh. So if you have a problem, I have a problem.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I have a problem, you have a problem, because we are one flesh. And if somebody has a problem with you, they got a problem with me.
Oh, get them, baby.
I will get them.
Unless it's a big dog.
Yeah, and then I have a problem and you're going to get them.
But remember, you are partners, and your goal is to solve the problem together. You're not against each other. You're on the same team. And so you've got to turn to that team mindset. But approach the challenges with the mindset that you're a team, you're working toward a common goal, and you're going to work at it together.
And I just encourage you to respect each other's strengths. You know, recognize that each partner may bring different strengths and perspectives to the table. And just because it's not your strength doesn't mean it's not a strength and it's not important and it's not helpful.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say that Lysandra's strengths I have found to so much value in because they're not my strengths. And you need to learn to leverage these differences to find the best solution. So it's like, okay, you are really good at this. You're going to handle that part of the problem. I'm really good at this. I'm going to bring this to the table and finding the solution. And so learn to lean into each other's strengths.
Yeah. And the last thing that we really want to encourage you with is to be patient with one another as you try to, to work together and to solve problems together, especially if you don't have a pattern of doing it in the past.
Yeah.
If this is a new pattern you're trying to implement, it's gonna take time.
Totally.
Be patient. Be patient with each other. Be patient with yourself. And as you accidentally solve a problem by yourself or, make your spouse feel undervalued or whatever, apologize and try to make it right and be like, I'm going to work on that. Next time I'm going to do better and whatever. And realize too, as you work together, so maybe you do remember, okay, we're solving this together. Things might not go perfectly at first. Okay, you're going to make some mistakes. You might say things that are a little mean or whatever, and you're trying to work through it together and not hurt each other's feelings. So be patient and encouraging. And also, show your spouse that you appreciate the thing that they brought to the table, the way they helped you to solve the situation. Because solving problems as a team takes collaboration and respect and understanding. So you've got to communicate openly, you've got to brainstorm together, and you got to support each other.
Well, and when it comes to being patient, you've got to understand that certain scenarios, certain situations for you as a couple may need a little bit more patience than others. You may be really good at working through a scheduling conflict that comes up.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, boom, boom, boom. We can see that we can do that really well together and we can do it quickly. But when a certain emergency happens, like maybe a water pipe breaks or something like that, you may not be really good at working together to find a common solution for that. And so understanding in certain situations, certain scenarios, I need to have a little bit more patience with my partner as we try to learn how to work through these things together. So not every situation is going to be the same because you're going to find certain things. It's like, oh, it's no problem. We can work through that together. And you think you got it all figured out when it comes to being a team until you get into other situations. So
that's right. So true. But you will have a stronger connection and you're going to have a better relationship if you learn to tackle your problems together. Okay.
Yeah.
When you work as a couple, you are a much stronger team. You have a bond and you're going to grow stronger as a couple. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for your life in general.
So family meeting tonight, we're going to have a conversation with our spouse about problem solving together. And part of the conversation is just going to be this. You're going to ask them how they feel like you're doing when it comes to problem solving as a team. First of all, start with the strengths. So let's talk about strengths when it comes to problem solving. How are you really good at problem solving? What are your strengths when it comes to that? And then, okay, we've talked about some positive things. Let's talk about the other side of that. What am I really not good at when it comes to problem solving together? Where am I struggling? What am I doing that's not helpful? So you want to have those conversations when you're not in the middle of, problem solving, working through a situation. And maybe you have a specific problem in a situation that you need to deal with right now. This may be a good time to put some of these things into practice. Okay, let's have this conversation about problem solving. All right, this is the problem we're dealing with right now. How can we put this into practice in this specific situation and scenario? And listen, it's Thanksgiving. You're going to be around a lot of family, which means a lot of opportunities for problems to arise.
Yep, you're about to have family problems.
You tackle those problems together. You're on the same side against your family, okay? So if family's the problem, you deal with it together.
That's right. Us against the world, babe. Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content, information, and swag, go to familymeeting.org, or you can email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062. We'll answer those questions on a future episode.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting. We are going to talk a little bit less about marriage relationships and a little bit more about parenting, because we are going to start at the beginning and talk about baby sleep schedules, but we are going to talk all the way up to teenage sleep schedules. And how do you parent that?
Okay.
Because, I think a lot of times we feel like you got to deal with your infant sleep schedule and your toddlers, and it's really difficult, and it is. But we don't realize that, you have to deal with that.
Their entire lives.
Their whole life.
Till
Till they leave the house. Yeah. Because even a teenager who doesn't get enough sleep is a monster. So we're going to talk about that. And we want to share the different philosophies that are out there about baby sleep schedules and what we did and what we would change.
All right. Sounds like a good conversation. I'll get some rest for that.
Yeah, you should.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
Thanks for joining us, you guys. I'm glad that you watched the recording, because some things you just can't get through the audio, like this super cool shirt and this handsome face that we all get to look at.
You can grab the shirt for yourself. This face belongs to her.
Yeah. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for being with us today.
Happy Thanksgiving.